lot of people are wondering is how much did this whole like camper, the truck, all in, what did it cost and what did they individually cost me? I'm going to tell you that today. But first, I'm going to finish making some hot chocolate. Mess of that. And no, I would not rather be gardening. So we'll start this off with like a nice little story time. So how did I get into this truck and camper craze? Well, we have to go back to about 2021. It was about October, and at the time I had a Jeep Wrangler. Me and my girlfriend at the time had been, not living out of it, but camping in it lots. And it was fine for when it was just me in it, but I soon realized that with me and her, that I was going to need something a bit bigger, and I kind of wanted to upgrade to either a van or a truck camper at the time. At the time, the van craze was at like full peak right then, so there was no way I was able to find anything other than like maybe an Astro van, which those are awesome. I couldn't afford to spend $6,000 on basically an Astro van that had like 300 to 400,000 kilometers, not miles, kilometers on it. And so a guy at work started talking to me about truck campers, and so I started looking for a truck. And so I was looking all over. I went and looked at one other one. It was a crew cab and a long box, and I believe it was for $16,500 for it, but it had been for its life was spent at a municipality, so it had an extreme amount of hours. And the engine had already had like a cylinder replaced in it. So at that point I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't trust the life this truck had. So after I passed on that first truck, I then seen that there was one about 45 minutes away from where I live. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. So I cruised down there to have a look at the truck, and it was in decently good shape. The body was a little bit rougher than I would like. I want something super clean, but the kilometers on it were so good. It was like, I think at the time 133,000 kilometers, which from an 05 Dodge is like really hard to find. And he was asking quite a price for it, and he had a lot done to this truck. Like, well, if you watch the tour, you'll see that like it's not cheap stuff that he had done to it. The diffs were basically rebuilt, and the ball joints on the front, they were Carly ball joints, which Carly backs it with a lifetime warranty because they say they're your last pair of ball joints you'll ever put in the truck. I doubt that, but we'll see. So far they've been good. And then like the free spin hubs on the front of this, that's a $4,000 touch. Like, that's not cheap. There is probably, and I have receipts from what he did to it, and it's like just about $10,000 in work done on this truck. So I was like, okay, so this guy put a lot of reliability mods into it, so I wasn't too upset about that. And then the Carly lift kit and the big tires on it, I was like, yeah, whatever. But those are things that I probably would have done anyways. Not the Carly, but like probably a mild lift, and then try to put like 35s on it. It has 37s on it, but yeah, I digress. So basically I got him down to about $20,000 for the truck, which at the time for a reg cab truck with 133,000 kilometers on it, I thought was not a horrible deal. Ideally, in a normal market, I would have said at that time this truck was worth about maybe 15. You have to think 2005, it's like a 16-year-old truck, right? And like, I've definitely dealt with some 16-year-old truck problems. So after that, I had the truck now, and then I went ahead, and the next day I found a camper in my town. It was very bare bones, no extras to it. Basically, it had the furnace, a fridge, and a pump sink. So one of those sinks that you just have a little hand pump with, and then a little water tank inside, but no bathroom or anything else. Oh, and it had a stove in it. And I seen that thing, I was like, sweet, and we bought it. And I threw that on there. So we used that setup for that winter and the next summer. And it was an awesome setup, very, very minimal. You got really good miles per gallon out of the truck and everything. It was great setup. Just awesome. And then came the next winter, and I said to my girlfriend at the time, I was like, do you want to take this to the next step and get something with a bathroom? And she's like, yeah. So I started looking. If you're looking at older Northern Lights, you'll notice there's some that's like, you'll see the door and then there's no basement underneath. It's just flat and to basically the bottom of the bed. Those are non-basement models. Northern Light doesn't classify them as 4-season, but I see a lot of people use them in the winter. And I can say any truck camper, if you have a decent heater in it, it's basically 4 seasons. You just can't run water in it. So these ones, at the time, I was planning on not running water in the winter. So I started looking at them and I was trying to find one. I had a lot of people just not answering me for some reason, or they would take forever to answer me, and I was just being impatient because I was trying to get a camper for us before winter. And then I found this thing in Kelowna. So I said to her, do you want to drive up on Saturday, basically just buy this camper sight unseen, and then drive back? And she was like, is it in good shape? And I started showing her pictures of it, and she really liked it. And I said, if it's in absolute horrid shape, we won't buy it, but we were pretty fixated that we were going to. I texted the guy and said, listen, I'll make you an offer for this. And I got him, he only came down $200 because it was a basement model. And usually the Northern Lights, like for this year, so this is a 1998. So about 1998 to, I'd say, probably like 2003-ish. They're usually a basement model goes anywhere from, 10 or 12,000 to 15 to 18, somewhere in that range. And then you usually, if you want one that doesn't have a basement, you can get them, you can find them, and they don't look, I haven't actually went and looked at one in person, so hold that to a grain of salt, but I've seen lots out there for like under 10,000. And when I say under 10,000, I mean like 7,000 to 10,000. And then an absolute mint condition one. There was a guy that I was talking to out of Edmonton that was restoring them, and he says that after he's done restoring it, redoing the gel coat and everything on it, he usually sells them for about 20 to 30. Depending on what model they are, if they're a basement or like whatever, right? I digress again. Lots of details, I'm sorry, but I like to be thorough about this. So what I paid for the camper was $9,800. And that's all said and done. So altogether, for this truck camper, I'm going to do the math here. Okay, it's done. I'm in it for about, with the tie downs, about $30,000. The truck and the camper, 30 grand. That's it. Do I think that I could have actually done better on the truck? Yes. I do think I could have done better on the truck. With that being said, so $30,000 for the truck and the camper, ready to go. This is an older truck and this is an older camper. I know for a fact that there's going to be more maintenance on it. I have done quite a bit of like general maintenance to the truck. It's a 2005. What do you expect? And especially one that hasn't been driven that much. Like a 2005 with 133,000 kilometers, it sounds like a great thing, doesn't it? Until you realize that those seals have sat there unlubricated for like the last 10 years. That's what I'm chasing now, is usually like little leaks. It's like a little leak here, a little leak there, and you're always just chasing those. I didn't want a perfect camper. I've had newer things that you have to sit there and like I know people are like, oh, take good care of it, it'll last forever. But like, I also just want to use it and not have to worry so much about it. So like, if I go into the forest and a tree branch rubs up against it, I'm okay with that. And that being said too, like, even if I like went out and bought, I don't think I'd ever buy a brand new camper. And that's kind of the fact why is like, I like having nice things. I like nice things like anyone else, right? But the fact is when you're driving 110 kilometers an hour down the highway, you're kind of asking for your nice thing to get hit by something. Whether it be a deer or whether it be a pebble this big that ends up putting a crack in your gel coat or something. I love the look of this truck. A red cab with a truck camper on it absolutely just looks. But there is lots of things that I don't like about it too. And that's going to be another video, don't you worry. But I think one of the main things to take from this is, if you want the cheaper setup, I can say it's just as much fun as the expensive one. Because at the end of the day, if you have everything that you need inside and it's everything you want, except it's just a bit older and you might have to do a bit more maintenance to it, but it gets you out there and doing the stuff you love to do, then I think that's the best way to go. Every time I always think about that. I always think to myself, I'm like, because this isn't my end-all camper. I know that. My next one, I already know what I want for my next camper. I have a strict idea, but right now I can't afford it. Someday I will be able to afford it, but right now I can't. I could afford it, but that would hold me back from doing the things that I like to do, like snowboarding and mountain biking and long trips like that. Or being able to go on my mega trip this summer. Like, if I went and got myself into debt for all that, then what's the point of living this lifestyle, right? Now, I understand some people trying to get into this, everyone's situation's different. And you do what's right for you. That's basically how much I paid for this, and I do still believe you could get not a diesel truck, but you don't need a diesel truck. And that's going to be a whole nother video also. But okay, that's enough rambling of me. It's been a good time chatting with you guys over this hot chocolate. I'll catch you guys on the next one, okay? Later.